The war had also drained Germany's resources, leaving its economy in shambles. The infrastructure was devastated and the industrial base was severely weakened. Factories lay in ruins, and the agricultural sector was struggling to recover from the years of neglect and destruction. The once thriving cities were now shadows of their former selves, with buildings reduced to rubble and streets filled with debris. Inflation soared and unemployment skyrocketed, creating widespread poverty and despair. The German mark lost its value at an alarming rate, leading to hyperinflation that wiped out the savings of ordinary citizens. People were forced to carry wheelbarrows full of money just to buy basic necessities like bread and milk. The middle class, which had been the backbone of German society, was particularly hard hit, and many found themselves destitute and struggling to survive. Historian, the social fabric of Germany was also torn apart by the war. Families were divided, and communities were fractured. The loss of millions of young men in the war left a generation of women without husbands and children without fathers. The psychological trauma of the war affected everyone, from soldiers who had fought on the front lines to civilians who had endured years of hardship and uncertainty. The country was deeply divided along class lines, with the working class bearing the brunt of the economic hardship. The gap between the rich and the poor widened, leading to increased social tensions and unrest. Strikes and protests became common as workers demanded better wages and working conditions. The sense of solidarity that had existed during the war years quickly dissipated, replaced by anger and resentment. The defeat in the war also led to a crisis of confidence in traditional institutions, such as the monarchy and the military. The abdication of Kaiser Wilhelm II and the establishment of the Weimar Republic marked a significant shift in German politics. Many Germans felt betrayed by their leaders and disillusioned with the old order. The military, once revered and respected, was now seen as a symbol of failure and defeat. The German people were looking for someone or something to blame for their misfortune, and they were receptive to extreme solutions. Conspiracy theories and scapegoating became rampant, with various groups being blamed for Germany's defeat and subsequent suffering. The Jewish community in particular became a target of widespread anti-Semitic sentiment, which would have devastating consequences in the years to come. The war had a profound impact on the German psyche. The sense of national pride and identity was shattered, replaced by feelings of humiliation and betrayal. The loss of territory and the harsh terms of the Treaty of Versailles only added to the sense of injustice and victimization. Many Germans felt that they had been unfairly punished, and that their country had been singled out for blame. The defeat was humiliating, and the terms of the Treaty of Versailles were seen as unjust and punitive. The treaty not only imposed heavy reparations payments on Germany, but also placed severe restrictions on its military capabilities. The loss of key industrial regions, such as the Saar Basin and the Rhineland, further crippled the economy. The sense of national humiliation was compounded by the fact that Germany was forced to accept full responsibility for the war. The treaty blamed Germany for the war and imposed heavy reparations payments on the country. These payments placed an enormous burden on the already struggling economy, leading to further financial instability and hardship. The reparations were seen as a form of collective punishment, and many Germans felt that they were being unfairly targeted by the victorious Allied powers. This further fueled resentment and anger towards the victorious Allied powers. Protests and demonstrations against the reparations became a common sight, with many Germans demanding a revision of the treaty terms. The sense of injustice and anger created a fertile ground for radical political movements, which promised to restore Germany's honor and reverse the humiliations of the post-war settlement. The war and its aftermath created a fertile ground for extremist ideologies such as Nazism to take root and flourish. The political landscape of Germany became increasingly polarized, with extremist parties gaining support from those who felt betrayed by the Weimar Republic and the Allied powers. The promise of a strong authoritarian leader who could restore order and national pride resonated with many disillusioned Germans. The stage was set for the rise of a charismatic leader who could exploit the despair and anger of the German people. Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party capitalized on the widespread discontent, using propaganda and mass rallies to galvanize support. The promise of a new, stronger Germany, free from the shackles of the Treaty of Versailles, appealed to a population desperate for change and redemption. The seeds of the next great conflict were sown in the fertile soil of post-war Germany's despair and disillusionment. The clause forced Germany to accept sole responsibility for the war, a bitter pill to swallow for a nation that felt it had fought honorably. This sense of humiliation and injustice festered among the German population, creating a deep well of resentment towards the Allied powers. The treaty also imposed crippling financial reparations on Germany, demanding billions of marks in payments to the victors. These payments, meant to compensate for war damages, placed an immense strain on the already devastated German economy. The reparations, coupled with the loss of valuable territories and industrial regions, further crippled Germany's ability to recover. This economic hardship fueled social unrest and political instability, creating a breeding ground for extremist ideologies. The treaty's impact extended beyond economics. It also significantly limited Germany's military capabilities, restricting the size of its army and navy, and prohibiting it from possessing certain types of weapons. Historian: these limitations were intended to prevent future German aggression, but were perceived by many Germans as a humiliating infringement on their national sovereignty. The restrictions fueled a sense of vulnerability and resentment, further undermining the legitimacy of the newly established Weimar Republic. The flow of foreign capital dried up, businesses collapsed, and unemployment skyrocketed, leaving millions of Germans jobless and desperate. The once thriving cities and towns were now filled with scenes of despair and hopelessness. Families struggled to make ends meet, and the social fabric of the nation began to unravel. The economic crisis struck at the heart of German society, affecting every aspect of daily life. From the bustling urban centers to the quiet rural villages, no one was spared from the devastating impact of the Great Depression, shattering the fragile stability that had been established during the 1920s. The Weimar Republic, which had been a beacon of hope for a new democratic Germany, found itself on the brink of collapse. Economist media, archival footage of Weimar Republic struggling to maintain legitimacy, black and white photograph of Weimar Republic facing economic challenges. The Weimar Republic, already struggling to maintain legitimacy, faced an insurmountable challenge. The political landscape became increasingly volatile, with extremist groups gaining traction among the disillusioned populace, was ill-equipped to handle the magnitude of the crisis. The government's attempts to stabilize the economy were met with skepticism and often outright hostility from the public. The government's response was seen as weak and ineffective, further exacerbating the situation. Policies that were meant to alleviate the economic strain often fell short, leaving the population feeling abandoned and betrayed, further eroding public confidence in democratic institutions. The promise of democracy seemed hollow in the face of such overwhelming hardship, and many began to look for alternative solutions. The economic turmoil led to widespread social unrest, with protests and strikes becoming a common occurrence. The streets of Germany were filled with angry citizens demanding change and accountability, with street clashes between extremist groups, both left and right, becoming increasingly common. The political climate grew more polarized, and violence often erupted as different factions vied for control. This atmosphere of chaos and fear created a fertile ground for extremist ideologies such as Nazism to take root and flourish. The sense of desperation made the population more susceptible to radical ideas that promised quick and decisive solutions. The desperation and despair of the German people during the Great Depression created an opening for demagogues like Adolf Hitler. His rhetoric resonated with those who felt abandoned by the current system. Economist media, archival footage of Adolf Hitler's rise to power during economic crisis, historical video of Nazi Party offering solutions to Germany's problems. Hitler and the Nazi Party offered simple solutions to complex problems, presenting themselves as the saviors of the nation. They capitalized on the widespread discontent and promised a return to prosperity and national pride, blaming the Jews, communists, and the Weimar Republic for Germany's woes. This scapegoating provided a convenient target for the frustrations of the German people, and many were quick to embrace these divisive narratives. They promised to restore Germany to its former glory, a message that struck a chord with a population yearning for stability and strength. The allure of a strong, decisive leader became increasingly appealing to nationalist sentiment and the desire for a strong leader. The Nazi Party's propaganda machine worked tirelessly to cultivate an image of Hitler as the only person capable of rescuing Germany from its dire situation. The economic crisis provided Hitler with a platform to spread his message of hate and division. exploiting the vulnerabilities of a nation in turmoil. His speeches were filled with promises of a brighter future, but they were also laced with venomous rhetoric against those he deemed responsible for Germany's plight, preying on the fears and anxieties of a nation in despair. The combination of economic hardship and political instability created a perfect storm, allowing Hitler's message to resonate deeply with a desperate population. The seeds of extremism had been sown, and the consequences would soon become tragically clear. The experience of World War I, where he served as a dispatch runner, had a profound impact on him, solidifying his nationalist beliefs and his hatred of Jews and communists. The war was a crucible that forged his radical ideologies. The defeat of Germany and the subsequent Treaty of Versailles left him feeling betrayed and humiliated, fueling his desire for revenge and a return to national greatness. This period was crucial in shaping his worldview, as he saw the war not just as a military conflict, but as a struggle for the very soul of Germany. Psychologist Hitler possessed a unique combination of charisma, oratorical skills, and an uncanny ability to tap into the anxieties and resentments of the German people. He was a master of propaganda, and knew how to manipulate crowds, using his speeches to spread his message of hate and division. His ability to read the room and adjust his rhetoric to match the mood of his audience was unparalleled. He could be fiery and passionate, or calm and reassuring, depending on what the situation demanded. This adaptability made him a formidable force in the political arena. Hitler's speeches were often rambling and incoherent, but they resonated with a population desperate for answers and a way out of their misery. He offered simple solutions to complex problems, scapegoating minorities and promising to restore Germany to its former greatness. His rhetoric was filled with promises of economic revival, national pride, and racial purity. He painted a picture of a utopian future where Germany would rise from the ashes and reclaim its rightful place in the world. This vision was intoxicating for many who felt lost and abandoned in the post-war chaos. Psychologist Hitler's personal charisma was undeniable. He had a hypnotic effect on audiences, his piercing blue eyes and passionate delivery captivating those who heard him speak. He presented himself as a man of the people, a simple soldier who understood their struggles and offered them hope. His ability to connect on an emotional level was a key factor in his rise. He made people feel seen and heard, tapping into their deepest fears and desires. This emotional connection was not just a political tool, but a psychological weapon that he wielded with precision. His message of national revival and racial purity resonated particularly strongly with the disenfranchised and disillusioned, who saw in Hitler a savior who could lead them out of the darkness. The economic hardships and social upheaval of the time created a fertile ground for his ideas to take root. People were looking for someone to blame for their suffering, and Hitler provided them with convenient scapegoats. His promises of a better future were a beacon of hope for those who felt left behind by the rapid changes of the modern world. Psychologist Hitler's personal magnetism played a crucial role in his rise to power, enabling him to connect with the masses on an emotional level and build a loyal following. His ability to inspire devotion and loyalty was unmatched. He created a sense of community and belonging among his followers, making them feel like they were part of something larger than themselves. This sense of unity and purpose was a powerful motivator, driving people to support him with unwavering dedication. His rise was not just a political phenomenon but a psychological one, rooted in his ability to manipulate the emotions and beliefs of those around him.